Yay. Okay, yes, we're live. It's been so long since I've been live on YouTube, and I'm super excited because I did set an intention for you guys this year that I would be sharing live with you, and you deserve it. So let's kick off with today's topic that it's on my mind to start here, because I do feel like it will set the basis for a lot of the things that I want to share with you on this channel around optimizing your energy. So today is all about how do we eat for energy. And today's video, I want to share 3 major sections, and each one of them I could talk to you so much about, but I think this is really going to set you up at the start of, this year. Still kind of like, well, we're actually just going into the Lunar New Year, so we really are at the start of the year, and it's going to set you up with the right framework to start thinking about where do you need to create some habits that are more realistic and sustainable. And the good thing is, doing this now as we enter the Lunar New Year, so many of you will have started your new year in the Gregorian calendar on the 1st of January, and you'll realize that some of the intentions that you've set may not have been realistic for you, or they're not working, and you kind of want like a roadmap to help you to kind of guide you through what to do. So today's sharing is really going to just give you what I do and what really works for me as somebody that has really always been passionate and enjoyed food, but wants to know, like, how can I live a life where the food is fueling me, it's providing my body with the nourishment that it needs, but I can still enjoy myself in a way that doesn't feel so restricted. So I've made some notes so that I can kind of stay on track, because I can just go all over the place with all the things that I want to share to help you to just get your life in this like juicy place where you are thriving energetically. So the first area is really about the types of foods that I eat that really allow my body to be thriving. So what I like to do is give you a formula that is not based on the numbers, like the calories and the macros and all the things that would make this type of lifestyle really frustrating. And actually to set you something that you can do very simply. So the first is focus on whole food that's minimally processed. So what do we mean when we say whole foods? Is foods that are still as close as possible to their original source. So if you were to take an avocado and you were to smash it and put in some like onions and tomatoes and fresh herbs and make guacamole, that's not processed, but obviously the shape has changed. Whereas if you look at bread, you don't know what ingredients are inside most of the breads that you eat. The same could be said for pasta and pastries and the cakes. And that's not to say you couldn't make your own bread, that you did know the ingredients. You could make your own cakes, right? You could make all these things. But when you're buying these things from outside, these foods are predominantly filled with flour and sugar to make you highly addicted to them and to fill them up in a way that's cheap. And then all these flavorings and artificial ingredients that make you addicted to those foods. Whereas when you transition to foods that come from nature, so foods that you could see growing on any land, in any country, foods that you could see moving, like if your idea is to have a diet that includes animal products, so animals that are moving on the land and the products that come from there, and also from the sea, so all the ingredients that are in the sea that we can eat. So that's everything from like seaweeds and algae like spirulina that's so nutrient dense for our bodies, to things like prawns and mussels, to fish, proper fish like salmon and tuna and snapper. So this is whole foods, and we can eat these foods in abundance. And because the body is designed for that, then the body will tell you when it's had enough. Like, no one really sits there and goes, I'm going to eat 4 plates of broccoli, because it's almost like the body goes, no, we're good. But have you noticed that you can sit there quite easily and eat bags of crisps, a bag of cookies? And that's because these foods are like artificially made. So a focus on whole foods first. When you're thinking about whole foods, it doesn't matter whether you're at home or whether you're eating out, a really good way to look at it first is actually to think about putting the protein on your plate first. And so whatever your protein source is, so if that's animal products, that could be, you know, grass-fed beef, it could be, you know, hormone-free chicken, organic chicken. It can be the eggs that come from those chickens. It could be goat's meat. I'm Caribbean, so we have lots of goat meat. It could be your fish, your seafood. And if you're plant-based, you know, maybe things like organic tofu. It could be tempeh, which is another form of fermented soybeans. It could be a lentil stew. It could be a bean stew. You know, so you choose that based on your preference in what you eat. So protein first, and then we want to look at, okay, how many different types of vegetables can we order and put on our plate? So when I'm eating out, I tend to look at the sides and see if I can add in vegetables from there to my meal. Or I'm looking at the mains and looking at which one feels heavy in a protein source accompanied with vegetables, and that's how I choose what I'm gonna eat, and then, you know, sometimes supplement with the sides. And when I'm eating at home, of course, that becomes easier. And then the third thing I like to do is then I like to put something on the plate that lastly might help to, you know, give some more extra substance to the plate. So my favorite choice of carbohydrates is quinoa. I mean, quinoa is a great grain replacement. It's actually a seed, but it's so full of all different types of protein sources that we need. So I like that. Or if not, I like something that's a starchy vegetable, something like a pumpkin, you know, or even eggplant. That starchiness kind of fills me up more. And then I'm not relying on flour to fill me. Think about how many of your meals do you have that don't have flour? Because you still need the food to satiate you, but most of us are doing that through flour and processed foods. And then I absolutely, where possible, love in one of my meals to have fermented foods. So think your sauerkrauts, your kimchi, you know, your achar, your pickled vegetables. That, you know, these foods are foods that are going to feed the microbiome, so feed the friendly bacteria in your gut. And that is going to help you to thrive. So that's another thing that I do. The other thing that I do is I prepare really good staples that are always available in my cupboards or in my fridge. So let's talk about the fridge staples. If you go to my website, alika.co, you'll see on there I have a recipe for lentil flatbread. I also do the same with flax seeds. So I take flax seeds and I grind them up in the blender, and then with water I make a dough, and then I roll that out, and then I just pan fry it on either side. And that is like my flatbread, and it's full of fiber because it's just flax seeds. And I do the same with lentils. And so that staple, when we make that, I make a portion of about 4 or 5, and that is always in my fridge. And as soon as it starts to run low, I make more. And I can freeze them as well, so we can make even more and freeze them. That's one of my staples. Another one of my staples in my freezer is frozen spinach. Because whether I want to make a green smoothie or I just want to add extra greens to my food, so I've got the most nutrient-dense foods, which are greens, frozen spinach, I can just shove that in a pot, add a little bit of water, and it just heats itself up very easily, and it's done. And then I'm not worrying about always keeping all these fresh produce that spoils quickly. So that's another one. I also love to have frozen pre-sliced bananas, because that's the base of a lot of my smoothies. So imagine now the bananas with the greens, the spinach, and then I could add in protein powder, and I could add in some nut butter, like peanut butter, and before you know it, I've got a very quick and fast smoothie. I can add less liquid and make that a smoothie bowl, which I could top with, you know, lots of different seeds and nuts for really great, you know, wholesome snack. Like, so this is the type of thing you want to think about. What are the staples? What are the things that you have all of the time? I tend to have energy balls as well. So that's where you take the nuts and the seeds and you blend them with dates, and I blend it with coconut as well. I like to add cinnamon because that's a spice that balances blood sugar. So I like to have that. I like to have the energy balls in the fridge as well. So think, what are your staples that you can have? And if you're struggling for staples, then I'm going to put a link below actually for my Eating for Energy PDF. It's like a little guidebook, and that has some recipes in there, and that can help you in terms of creating staples. So the other thing that really helps me is I like to follow a gluten-free diet. So what that means is I am looking at all the foods that don't contain wheat, barley, and rye, because those are the only three grains that contain gluten. Now, oats do sometimes have gluten due to cross-contamination because of how they're grown and the machines sometimes that they're manufactured in. But what we tend to find is that most of us are consuming high amounts of wheat flour. And wheat is now predominantly genetically modified. It's also covered with pesticides, unless you're buying an organic variety. And you have to also know that the wheat, the grain that we're eating now, is not the wheat grain that our ancestors ate. You know, there were varieties there like einkorn wheat that were very different in how they were, and also how we digested it. So this gluten thing that everyone is talking about is not just a fad. You know, most people, you know, today don't always understand whether it's actually the chemicals that come on the wheat or actually the gluten, which is the protein that's found inside these grains that's irritating our gut. But what we do know and see quite clearly is that when people remove gluten from their diet, they always share some beautiful things like less bloating, easy digestion, less joint pain, you know, and just feeling lighter. And therefore, you know, trying to go gluten-free is a decision that you might want to make just to have and experience it, to see whether that's something you want to go all the way into. And I find that sometimes I stray off that path and I can tell immediately. So going gluten-free is one of the ways that I utilize to really eat for energy. And then another one that I just love, because I just find it so simple and easy, is to have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before eating my meals. Now, I not always do this when I'm eating out, but when I'm at home, I make it a habit. And apple cider vinegar is just really good it's good for balancing the blood sugar, so it stabilizes the blood sugar, preparing the body for digesting food. It's also a fermented food, so of course it's introducing this healthy bacteria into your gut, feeding your gut with good bacteria, which obviously supports your immune system and your body's ability to digest food. So apple cider vinegar is one of those like grandma's recipes for everything, but I just think it's a really easy one. So that so far is everything that I wanted to share with you around the actual foods that I eat for energy. The second thing I want to talk about is fasting. Fasting to me is one of those things that I've been able to incorporate, because if you want to have energy, like thriving energetically in your body, you want to create a lifestyle. So you want to have things that fit into your lifestyle. And for me, fasting and intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it, is something that human beings are designed to do. So we were designed to go through what we call feast and famine. So go through for long periods of time without eating, and then to feast. And so it's not something that you have to look at as a diet. It's not something that you have to learn all the rules for just to get started. You can understand that we have strayed away from what is natural to us and what we're designed to do. And because of that, you can just ease yourself back to that natural state. So what I recommend is fasting, because you use 70% of your body's energy to digest food. And that's a whole lot of energy that you could be using for so many other things, for fulfilling your purpose and doing so many other things that you want to do. You also need to allow your body time to rest without constant eating. And that will allow that energy to be used for different organs, for different repairs, and also create this balance of the blood sugar where your body is able to go without food and therefore consuming sugar all the time, and then it taps into its own energy stores, which is firstly the fat, the excess fat that you have, then the fat in your organs that you have, like the fat, maybe the excess fat that you have in your liver that's creating fatty liver, or the excess fat around your organs that you're wanting to remove, like all this stubborn fat that people have, like belly fat. You know, a lot of the reasons why you can't tap into that as an energy source is because you're constantly eating, and therefore the body's very efficient, so it always fuels with the first fuel source that's available. And if you are eating every 3 to 4 hours or 3-4 meals every day, then it's always going to be using that food and not necessarily getting the chance to tap into your fat stores. And I know you want to tap into your fat stores as well. So there are so many other benefits around fasting. So, you know, we need to do a separate video around fasting, because there's like autophagy, which is the body's ability to, eat its own cells, because you allow yourself periods of time where there's no food, so then it goes into this cannibal state and starts eating its cells. And that's one of the most brilliant things for your overall well-being, and also anti-aging, the fact that your body is like eating old cells and creating new ones. So there's a whole thing there on fasting. But just from an energy point of view and eating for energy, part of eating for energy is having periods of time without eating. And the last one I want to talk about today is actually water. We forget this one, and it's such an easy one to be looking at. Okay, I need to diet, I need to exercise, I need to do all these things, I need to sleep. Of course, it's super important for energy. But you are 70% water. And that water is helping every cell in your body to work more optimally. It's allowing your muscles to work more optimally, your brain to work more optimally, everything. It's allowing things to be able to move through your body, so energy is moving more efficiently. And so many of us are not drinking the recommended water, which is 2 to 3 litres. We're also drinking it in a way that doesn't allow us to hold onto the water. So sometimes you need to drink it and add electrolytes. I like to add also a pinch of pink Himalayan salt, which contains over 56 trace minerals, to make sure that that water also is just not like coming in my body and coming out of my body. So water is such an important thing. So how I do it for me to make sure that I can maintain this is I'm very top heavy at the beginning of the day. So I've noticed that once the day gets started and I get doing my things, that I really forget to drink the water. So I start my morning with the biggest container I have, which is a 1 litre container, and I fill that with warm water, and I actually use pure lemon essential oils, and I put that in and I drink that. And I essentially just, because it's warm, it's easy for my body to take, I just stand and drink that. Now, for those of you that are not used to drinking that much water straight away, that can be hard. But, as I'm just kind of like fairly just woken up basically, I find that it's easy for me to just consume that water straight away, because I've been sleeping for 8 hours, so my body can take it. Then I refill it, and that second one, I'm drinking that as I'm getting ready in my shower and all my things I do in the morning as I'm getting ready. So by the time that I've left the house in the morning, I've drank 2 litres of water. And then for me, it's so much easier then to top up by having a water bottle that I carry with me in my bag. That one's about 300 millilitres. I like to use decaffeinated teas, like herbal teas, as my main source of liquid, because to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of drinking just plain water. Like, my body's just like, oh, there's no taste, there's no nothing. So I just know I never drink the amount of water when I do that. I also carry an essential oil of orange with me and grapefruit, and so I can flavor any water. But I just tend to find that when I drink like teas, I can, like whenever I'm out, I can order a teapot of tea in a lot of the cafes that I work in, and then I can order hot water from somewhere and put a drop of my essential oil in there. And so that's how I consume the rest of it throughout the day. So, but notice that I'm topping up because I already did the major work at the beginning of the day. So those were the 3 things that I wanted to teach you today, just around how I eat for energy. And what I want to say to you is I'm going to make sure that and put in the comments for you the free PDF Eating for Energy. And I'll also put a link in to my free energy audit. That's a great starting place where you and I get to explore where in your life, either personally or professionally, could you be leaking energy. And with that 1-hour consultation, we go from there to see what would your roadmap look like if we wanted to work together. I can share with you some of the programs that I have. The main program that most people work with me on is called the Health Concierge, and that's a coaching and lifestyle program for business leaders that helps you implement healthy habits in all areas of your life by firstly starting with an energy audit, which is where we identify where you're leaking energy in your life. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then check out the comments below, and please leave me a comment on anything that you want explaining more of, you want to learn more about, anything that you want to share based on what I've shared today. Give me some shares on what's working for you in terms of eating for energy that you've implemented and that you've managed to maintain. And do subscribe, because know that I promised you this year I'm going to be live with you, and then as we grow this community, I'm going to be able to really understand more and more of your needs and create and co-create content together. So looking forward to seeing more of you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I can't wait to be back sharing with you again. Take care.